All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you had a great June holiday. So let me look through, okay, which part of sharing the lecture slide. All right. So moving my the audio space. Okay. So sorry for my coughing. My throat condition is not very good still, but I will try my best to make the better recording for the audio. All right, so as I promised, so I'm recording this video as a synchronous lecture. So I'm posting this one after the on the holiday weeks of the Chuseok and also the Korean Invasion Day, the Hangulnar, so that you can observe the holiday and some of the no class day. All right, so reflecting with the latest content of the syllabus. I'm covering the sampling method in the social science so that you can understand more details more easily instead of just a one-time lecture. The sampling method is very, very important part in the research method in any level, in undergraduate level, in the higher graduate level. So I will try my best to explain it in more slower tone so that I can provide a better explanation and more examples. But anyway, so hope you had a great Chuseok holiday all together. Sorry about that. So my throat condition didn't get very well, but I will try my best. Okay. Hope you had a great Chuseok. So I visited my parents in the Ilsan and other Seoul area. So we visited Imjinga, which is the very near the border between the North Korea, and visited the Korean University in our campus so that I could work. And while I was working, my kids were playing, and some of the other Gapyeong plays and had the camping. So it was very good time for the on the family rejoinment, the rejoining as a holiday. So hope you had a great time with your family members or your significant others, whoever very close to you or very convenient for you. All right. So as we had, so before the holiday week, we had the survey, which is the volunteer survey after spending about 1 month in this semester. Thank you very much for your all participation, and I will provide very brief feedback on the current version of the class. So 29 of you attended the participated survey. So asking that what would be the level of the lecture or the content I'm covering? So out of 165.5% said that is very normal, which is very good. 24% of you mentioned it's very difficult. 6 point, sorry. Sorry about that. 7%, relatively easy. 3.4, very difficult. So most likely, so averagely, you mentioned very normal, but some portions said very difficult. So I would try my best to keep the current level, but try to find some of the alternative lecture materials or some of the better explanations so that you can have the better understanding of the course contents. So many of you mentioned that weekly quiz is very challenging. I always want to make so it's always on between. So we should have some of the function of the sorting out so that you can, if you study more, if you understand better, or you would have the better evaluation in the relative competition of the grade scale. But also it should be accessible. So as long as you study and preview and then review the lecture materials, you need to get the very good grade, so reflecting your hard work and your time spent in this course lesson. So the weekly quiz about 50% normal, about 40% very difficult, very difficult. So it seems maybe, as I briefly mentioned in the previous class, the English would be a big matter. And so as this is a multiple choice format, I'm thinking about what would be the better resolutions or the solutions to resolve this issue. So the current level of weekly quiz might be a little bit challenging, relatively, most of you, or averagely. So I will adjust the level of the level of the weekly quizzes more accordingly so that you can have the better accessibility as long as you study and you prepare for the weekly quizzes. And also, if zero represent 0%, 10 represent 100%, and how much would you understand? I cover in English during the class. So 29 of you responded, and we can. So instead of using the very normal average, so we can use the weighted average to see what will be the average level. So averagely, how much would you understand in English in the lecture? So yeah, just a side lecture. This is weighted mean. So two of you mentioned no. One of you said two out of 10. So four of you said three. Four of you said four. So so weighted sum would be 171. So you are 29 respondents. So 9 point, no, sorry about that. 5.9. So which is, so as one is 10%, one is 10 as a percent. So about 60%. So 95% averagely, you are understanding my lecture in English. So which is, maybe in both ways, in the both ways. So it would be 60% is still very good because it's in English, so your mother tongue. It's saying to me as well. So our mother tongue is not English, so 60% is very excellent, but it's not 100% yet. So possibly I would increase it as the 80% as much as possible, but I will try to see what are some possible adjustments. So, and there were many of the open-ended questions saying that some of the positive and very helpful aspects of the class in this lecture or in this course would be the examples I provide. And some of the terminologies in English you are learning, and some of the basic concepts I review with the more examples and explanations, and some of the PowerPoint, the quality of the PowerPoints and the additional video clips. So usually sometimes I thought that the video clips would be useful, or sometimes it's wasting your time. But it seems that instead of just the normal and the pure lecture, having some video clips or activities would be very great. So I will keep that. Knowledge about social welfare research and the course content covered in English. So as many of you mentioned that you are taking this course partially because you want to practice English. So that might be positive aspects. And many of the challenging aspects, the comments you provided were mostly about English, yeah, and the weekly test. The new terminologies, so which are the new words for you, so vocabulary, and sometimes you are checking that in your dictionary, the online dictionary, and the lecture slide passed in the next pages. So sorry about that. So I feel I need to maybe narrow down the range I cover in the class possibly, but I'm not sure. So maybe I'm covering too fast and I'm talking too fast possibly. So, but I will try my best to adjust the speed or the pace of the lecture and maybe narrow down on the range of the lecture. And course content is not very difficult after review, but the English is a matter. The organization of the lecture slide and the PowerPoint. So I will provide for some more feedback about this comment, but yeah, I'll try to understand what you mean. And translation of the English to Korean takes some time. Yes, yes, yeah, that's very, very natural. I think that's very normal. I believe that anyone, say anyone in South Korea, any of the students in any university in South Korea, would be very challenging because the 100% in English class might be very, very new or relatively very familiar for you because most of the lectures were done in Korean in your maybe for the secondary education, I mean your high school or middle school. So yeah, this is very normal. And so lecture slide. So the organization of lecture slide usually instead of the just listing out the very normal the summarization of the textbook. Yeah, I usually make some manipulation. I mean, I make some adjustment because usually in textbook, there are much more information. So if you read the chapters I cover in the class, even though I cover about the 3 hours, no. So about three class hours. I mean the 50 minutes. So three more than three, so that's 150 minutes. Um, That's the very condensed version of the textbook. And if you just read the textbook, sometimes it might be very challenging to understand because they just provide just the contents and the theory and some of the application of the content. So my lecture slide is the easier version of the textbook with more explanation and more emphasis on the examples so that you can have the lower barrier to have the accessibility to the course contents. So the summarizing contents is, so in my teaching philosophy, that's your job. So I made the lecture slide, I made a more qualified lecture slide with the examples and with the more information and how to apply the knowledge in the textbook to the more accessible format of the knowledge. So that is my philosophy. So I provide the more qualified lecture slide, and you'd understand, and you'd review my lecture slide, and then you can summarize it in your own way. So that might be the ways of the handwriting or typing or the translating. That's totally up to you. But my goal is providing the lecture slide on focusing on the main contents of the textbook and summarizing the much very large information in textbook so that you can have the better understanding. So my suggestion is the preview. So I know you are very busy, but as the English class is challenging, the preview of the textbook, in case you don't have the time, for example, maybe at the end of the chapter, at the end of each chapter, or you can find many of the very useful information, such as the main points summarizing the key information of each chapter, the key terminologies, and examples to the review questions. So if you do not have the time or availability to preview the chapter before the class, yeah, I highly recommend you to review the some of the summarizing pages so at the end of the chapter of the textbook assigned for each week. So usually the understanding the lecture just without the previewing the chapter or without the review would be very challenging. If I were you, so if even I take a new class, just sitting on the classroom and just focusing on the class time is not very enough usually. So I need to preview, I need to review, and I need to apply the knowledge more and more and multiple times so that I can understand the content. So that's why usually it's very difficult. I totally understand, and I believe you are very normal. So thank you very much for understanding, and thank you very much providing your content, your comments. Reflecting what you know about that. Thank you very much, and let's go. So let's review what we covered so far. So week five, yeah, we learned about the operationalization and how to measure social aspects. So based on the using the tool as operationalization, so we can measure the social phenomena such as education, or you can try to measure. So you can find some of the dimensions as indicators, like variables and like attributes. So you can see how would you measure the education level in agile social phenomena. So we are not using the SPSS program, but in SPSS program, so we can see that label. So label is usually containing the information of what does the variable measure as a keyword. So you can see that on the EDUC variable. So this is one of the variable. High school years of school completed. So this is the number of the years of the education. So how many years of education you completed. So this is recorded as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a metric or continuous variable. So it could be the ratio variable because the zero means the no number of the no public education at all. So this is one way of the measure as operationalization. So they try to use the measure as operationalizing as years of education. Another one is the so R's highest degree, which is the respondent's highest level of degree. So less than high school is less than having the 12 years of education, the high school diploma, which is the high, just completed the high school education. Junior college is 2 years college, and bachelor's degree on the 4 years of the college level or the university degree And the graduate level of the education could be the professional schools like a medical school, or the law school, or some of the many of the graduate degrees. So these are some of the levels of the the level of education as a degree. So these are the missing variables that are inapplicable. DK means don't know. So NA means no answer. So these are so not of our interest because these are not included in the data analysis. But anyway, so level and the value, you can check that which one was the operationalization they used as a tool to measure the social phenomena. So usually the hypothesis, which is your research hypothesis in your research question, and that would be measured as a testable statement. So you can use the one variable, or you can connect the two variables as I use the example of the correlation. So the first example is a univariate analysis, just using one variable, so one dimension and the one indicator. So saying that the highest year of the education they completed, so we can see that in the 0 year of education and 20 years of education, there are the frequency, the how many people. So how many people completed the 12 years of education? How many people completed the 16 years of education? And you can see that the most of the people, so out of the 100%, no, also this is not percentage for the, sorry about that. So out of the total number of the cases, the most number of the people, the largest group of the people in terms of education is the high school diploma. So in terms of the central tendency, we can see that the 12 years of education. So this is 10, 11, 12 years of education, which is the high school diploma, high school graduate. They are the most the mode of the education, mode of the variable, because 12 years of the education completed has the largest number of the frequencies or the cases in that one. Okay. So bivariate analysis or bivariate the hypothesis is connecting the two aspects. So race would be the one of the variable as white or non-Hispanic white, or the African American or black or Asian and so on. And education is what we just see, what you just saw. So years of education or degree. So we are saying that independent variable is the cause of the effect. Dependent variable is the outcome of the variable or the outcome of the relationship. So which one is the right? So the race, based on the race, the education level is the fluctuated, or the education level is very different based on the category of the race. Or the education level will impact their race, whether they are white or whether they are non-Hispanic white and together or something. So which one is right? So the problem is, so we are checking that the causal relationship. So in this example, number one would be feasible. I mean, number one would be possible. But number two is not very, very possible in social science because based on the education level, based on the race, probably white would have the highest level of education compared with the Hispanic or the non-Hispanic. No, the African American, because there are some of the racial distribution of the equality or the inequality, and because of the inequality in race, education level might be very different. However, education level may not impact on their race because their race is determined at their birth. Um, for example, highly educated people cannot change their race, right? Because race is determined. Race is set up at their birth, right? So we cannot change the race as a biological setting. So that's why we are emphasize the causal relationship between independent variable, dependent variable. There are three rules of the causal relationship, or as you did in the in-class practice. So we should have the clear association. We should have a clear link between the independent variable and dependent variable. And then there should be some theoretical link or some of the empirical link, whatever. So they should be called the highly correlated. And there should be clear time order, which is the independent variable must happen before the dependent variable. And then non-spurious relationship. So we mentioned that there would be the third variable. And if the third variable and the third aspect is explaining the relationship between the independent and dependent variable, maybe there is no causal relationship between independent and dependent variable. So on the clear association between nationality and their income level, possibly because based on their their country where they're born, or maybe their income level would be very high or not, right? Nationality and the weight, nationality and the color of the response cell phone. Maybe for example, Chinese would like the maybe the red color cell phone better because the red color is maybe the color of the fortune, possibly, but we are not sure. So that would be very, very determinantal, very, very high determinant of their favorite color of their cell phone. We are not sure. And the nationality and the respondent famous brand of the cell phone or something, we're not sure. So we need to speculate more and more. We may test more theory about that. So the cause and the effect of maybe the clear time order would be very, very important part in terms of the causal relationship. For example, sorry. So father's education. So this is the their father's education for in the survey, and the mother's education. MAEDUC is the mother's education, and the EDUC is there the respondents who are participating in the survey. So usually the father's education and the mother's education were completed before their children's education, right? So in terms of the causality, you may use their father's level of education and the mother's level of education impacting on their level of education, their individual's levels of education. For example, if their parents are more educated, maybe their children's level of education would be maybe more educated or positively associated. But in case you are saying that the children's level of education is determining, or if the children is more educated, and that is the a cause of the outcome and their parental education. So usually this is not very, very true, right? So we cannot see that. We cannot say that the parent finishes their education level after their children finish their level education, right? So as you're on your bachelor's degree, and then after you complete your level of education, and then your parents resume their education, and maybe your father or mother finish their degree after you. So that might be very, very possible. So that would be possible, but the chance is not very, very clear, and that chance is not very high. So that's why I'm saying the causal relationship. In the level of the causal relationship, the clear time order is very important. And on the example of the non-spurious relationship is the correlation between the US spending the budget on the science and space and technology is correlated with the suicide and the hanging, the strangulation and the suffocation. And this is very about perfectly correlated. But there is no very clear link. So what are the possible theoretical explanation of the US expenditure on the space and technology and the number of the suicide by the hanging or something? So that would be by chance. We can find some of the very good explanations. There would be the third factor or others. And worldwide non-commercial space launches, how many rockets and how many non-commercial the spaceship launched in the air is very highly correlated with the number of the sociology doctorate awarded in the United States. And we have no idea why this is very highly correlated, right? So non-spurious relationships should have very clear association between independent and dependent variables. So that would be the very clear thing. Okay, so this is a review of the week 5 before the before the Chuseok holiday week. And as I announced, so we don't have the weekly quiz of the module 5. So you need to be very careful. So we do not have the weekly quiz because yeah, I wanted to observe your Chuseok holiday more convenient way. But from this one, so from the sampling method, we will have the weekly lecture. So we need to make sure very carefully listening about this one. Okay? All right, so in the sampling, what is the region or what in the world we should care about the sampling? So sampling is the process of the selecting observation, okay? So after very short, the post time, yeah, I will come back.